If you were a gamer in 1997, you had a lot of things to look forward to. The Nintendo 64 came out the year prior, and many big things were happening in games all around you. But if you were also a Star Wars fan, you had even more stuff to get excited about. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire released for the N64 in December of 1997, developed by LucasArts and published by Nintendo. This was a big deal because the game was part of a multimedia event by Lucasfilm for Shadows of the Empire. This includes a novel, CD music, toys, comics, and of course, the video game. The way it was described over the years is that Lucasfilm wanted to create the excitement of Star Wars without actually making a movie. But let's just focus on the actual game here for now, my young Padawans. The plot in Shadows of the Empire, the game, is different than what's in the book or the comics of the same name. This is because the entire event involved telling one big story from different perspectives in each piece of media that you followed. But the main things that you need to know is that the story takes place between the events of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. The game starts right at the Battle of Hoth and then jumps ahead in time right before the events at Jabba's palace. We follow a smuggler named Dash Rendar and his robot partner Lugo. Dash is an old friend of Han Solo that pilots a ship called the Outrider. Dash and Lugo help out the Rebel Alliance as freelancers, who at this point in time is dealing with a mysterious organization known as Black Sun. This is where things get a little weird, so stay with me. Black Sun is a criminal organization under the command of Prince Xizor, a noble who's looking to gain control of the galaxy through nefarious means from within the galactic underworld. Xizor wants to kill Luke Skywalker before Darth Vader can capture and turn him to the dark side, thereby embarrassing Vader and getting him tossed away, so that way he could become the Emperor's second in command. It's because of this that Dash Rendar and the Rebel Alliance cross paths with Black Sun multiple times, leading to a crazy battle in space at Xizor's Skyhook battle station. This brings about a clash with Black Sun, causing Luke along with the Rebel Alliance and Darth Vader's Imperial forces to team up for the one and only time. Real talk, it was a damn shame that we never got to see this in live action. But as exciting as this plot sounds, does Shadows of the Empire deliver a solid gaming experience?
Hello there.
Okay, let's get something clear first. I have a lot of nostalgia for this game. It was the first Nintendo 64 game that I ever played, and for that, I love it. But I can't allow my nostalgic feelings to get in the way of my judgment, so everything I say about the gameplay from this point, I say for the sake of being fair and objective.
And you're sounding like a separatist.
Just hear me out, Star Wars fans, and you'll feel where I'm coming from with this. Shadows of the Empire tackles a variety of gameplay styles, including third-person action, space-on-rail segments, and flying vehicle controls. It's like a grab bag of goodies that come together for an interesting and varied experience. To me, this makes sense for something like Star Wars in general. However, that doesn't mean that all of these things are done very well.
What?
The stages when you're running around as Dash Rendar are pretty decent. You could explore stages for secrets, shoot enemies with your blaster and other weapons, and so much more. This is pretty cool, minus a few hiccups here and there. But the vehicle sections where you're controlling the Outrider in space or a swoop bike on Tatooine are really not that great at all.
Liar!
Wait, hear me out, Star Wars fans. The controls in these levels are stiff and can be somewhat unresponsive in certain instances. Your accuracy could get really messed up because of that, mostly due to the N64 analog stick being as weird as it is. You can also have moments where you might lose a life where you just couldn't aim right while dealing with the enemies that are around you. It doesn't help that later in the game the difficulty skyrockets, making some levels feel super cheap. Enemies start giving you ridiculous damage and there's less health and ammo pickups lying around. What's annoying is that at higher difficulty settings, the game makes all of the pickups that you find very scarce, making it for a very frustrating experience. Alright, fine. There's at least one thing I could say that's good despite mentioning all of that. When the game was released, Shadows of the Empire had one of the best playable versions of the Battle of Hoth in 3D. Not gonna lie, I feel that this still holds up pretty well even today. Although it's not as large scale or detailed as other more recent Star Wars games, it still ends up being pretty good. The controls are still very stiff, but controlling a snowspeeder on the first Hoth level manages to hit all the right bullet points. You could shoot down probe droids and AT-ST walkers, and even use a tow cable to take down an AT-AT walker multiple times. Stuff like this that's done well is really what Star Wars fans love to see, so kudos on that. Everything else, however, hasn't really aged all that well.
And you're sounding like a separatist.
Surprisingly, Shadows of the Empire has some extra stuff that mixes things up a bit. However, you have to complete the treacherous task of finding all the challenge points in every stage. And let me tell you, this is a real pain to do.
And you're sounding like a separatist.
Look, I'm just being honest here. Challenge points are those silver rebel icons that you could collect hidden around each level. If you manage to find them all, or at least a bunch of them, then you're rewarded with some extra lives at the end of the stage. Now, if you manage to find every challenge point within the game by the time you finish it, you can unlock some cool bonuses for subsequent playthroughs depending on the difficulty setting. In my opinion, while some of these goodies are neat rewards, not everything is as good as you think. For example, if you find all of the challenge points on easy difficulty, you gain access to the Lugo scanner. It's a tool that lets you see an overhead view of what's around you and through walls. This is pretty cool, but I would have rather had this as a tool used during the game instead of afterwards. This could have been a neat ability for Dash Rendar with some energy pickups to find in each stage in order to keep using the Lugo scanner. At least, that's how I feel. But what about the other rewards for the other difficulties? On Medium, getting all the challenge points lets you take control of an X-Wing fighter during the final stage at the Skyhook Battle Station, and also lets you control an AT-ST during the Battle of Hoth. On Hard, you gain the ability to become invincible and gain all your weapons by crouching at the start. And finally, on Jedi difficulty, you get to have all of the Wampas become friendly and attack your enemies, bringing new meaning to the phrase, Wampa Stompa. Those are some good rewards, fair enough, but are they really worth going through all of the trouble of finding every single challenge point in the entire game? Nah, I don't think so. Let's be honest, the task is way too much work for such a meager reward, and by the point that you've already collected them, you're done with the game. It'd be one thing if you didn't have to do this multiple times and instead got each reward for finding all of the challenge points in one playthrough. Not every time you have to change the difficulty setting. That seems like a bad case of padding to me. And in my opinion, this was designed very poorly. So my young Padawans, can I recommend that you play through Star Wars Shadows of the Empire for the Nintendo 64? Look, as much as I have an appreciation for this game and what it means for Star Wars, I don't think it's aged very well. There's some big issues that I feel everybody excused back then simply because it was a new Star Wars game. And that's fine, but we gotta see things for what they are, not what we want them to be. I know there's a PC version with some differences, but most of it is the same, and here I'm reviewing solely the N64 version. And after playing through everything with some fresh eyes, I feel like we all just settled as Star Wars fans back then. That being said, I still think the story is worth being told and looking into. I actually would love if Disney and Lucasfilm remade this story in a brand new way. Hashtag make Shadows canon. For die-hard Star Wars fans, this is a look at a different kind of story we never got to see in live action. But for the casual fan, however, the game itself isn't too much to flock home about. If you didn't grow up playing this on your N64, you won't have the same appreciation for it, so don't be afraid to skip over this one. Go figure.